As president, I will put together a blended cabinet of Republicans and Democrats, Republicans plural. I'm the son of 2 Republicans. I married a Hoosier from southern Indiana who grew up with the Pences. I go on Fox News mostly so my parents and in-laws can see me on TV. And I get to talk to the president directly. But I don't want to dismiss people who are counting on higher wages, lower health care costs, and a brighter future for their kids.
Oh, you got something in common with Joe on the you can talk to your family watching Fox.
Yeah, exactly.
Joining us now, member of the House Judiciary and Intelligence Committees and a contender for the Democratic Party's 2020 presidential nomination, Congressman Eric Swalwell of California.
So, Eric, what you're telling us is your parents aren't watching today, but we'll send them a tape.
That's right.
Should we?
That's right.
Yeah.
Send a
they're with
videotape.
Fox and probably not your friends.
Yeah, exactly. You know, your story, though, and your approach to this is just so refreshing because you do go on Fox News, and you tell other Democrats they should go on Fox News. Bill Maher had a wonderful monologue a few weeks ago about how don't preach to the choir. Go to Fox News, talk to people on Fox News, and tell them what you stand for. What's your reaction? What has your reaction been from? Have Democrats scolded you for going on Fox?
Well, they're afraid of having that YouTube moment where maybe you say something you regret, or you hear from the right on Twitter, and that's just noise to me. Like, there's always going to be haters, but I listen to the people who come up to me at a TGI Fridays in Minneapolis and say, hey, I saw you on Fox News, I don't agree with you, but I respect that you went on there. Or a woman who came up to me in Iowa and said, I see you on Fox News, I'm not a Republican, but it's all my husband watches, so I get to watch you too. I don't want to dismiss those folks, and I want to talk to them.
Yeah, and show respect to people who you disagree with. A lot of people may not understand why people vote for Trump, but a lot of good people vote for Trump.
Mm-hmm.
I had a guy come up to me in the airport yesterday going, hey, I'm a big Trump fan, but like you, and love for you to come up and talk to my Republican club. I said, you need to talk to your Republican club first. But, but talk about how people respect that. People respect that you're willing to just go out there and try to meet them halfway.
I went to a gun dealer in New Hampshire a couple weeks ago, right before we passed background checks, and he brought a bunch of his best customers. And we didn't agree on a lot, but I started to understand some points he was making about if we expand background checks, he didn't want to see that affect his sales because so many more people are buying, and he didn't want to lose a sale because the system was overwhelmed. And I said, if that's the issue, we can fix that. That's a resource issue. That's not, he thinks I'm infringing on some right type of issue. A couple weeks ago, I took veterans out to our shooting range and used it as a way for the sheriff's office to recruit veterans, for me to hear about their issues. And I brought Shannon Watts from Moms Demand Action, and she was able to talk to a bunch of NRA members who like to shoot. And we didn't disagree on much. Most of us agreed that rights come with responsibilities, and that's the type of president. And
by the way, that's the thing about whether you're talking about gun shop owners, especially gun shop owners, like, they want the system to work.
Or they lose a buck or a lot of bucks.
Yeah, they want the system to work, and they want it to be effective. It's not good for them, not good for their sales if it doesn't work.
So what is the message of your campaign? I have a stopwatch, 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Go.
We are in gridlock right now, crisis to crisis. The only way out on the biggest issues, healthcare, education, reducing gun violence, is to go big, taking on those issues, being bold with the solutions, coverage for all with a public option, zero interest on student loan debt, banning and buying back assault weapons when it comes to gun violence, and then doing good in the way that we govern. Having a collaborative approach, having a blended cabinet, as I would promise, and also getting the dirty money and the dirty maps out of politics.
So how are you going to break through the sea of candidates?
Well, I'm someone who was the first in my family to go to college, started working at age 9 on a paper route. I know why people work hard and what they expect it to add up to, but by being able to go to college and come out of law school and work as a prosecutor, I've seen all the people that the American dream is not adding up for. And so I'm for them. I also will bring generational optimism. I represent a district in Silicon Valley that wants to go big on these issues, but sees a Washington that can't find cures for people who need it, that can't solve this climate chaos issue. And then when it comes to experience, I've been in Congress for 7 years. I know who our threats are from abroad. I've defended our country against them on the Intelligence Committee. I know the attacks to the rule of law on the inside and what that means to just our institutions and our norms. So on day one, I'll be able to lead.
So, Congressman, you mentioned health care. That's been a big sort of litmus test for candidates. Do you support Medicare for all? And you've said we ought to have fundamentally a single-payer system.
Coverage for all with a public option.
So what does that mean exactly? Does that mean an end to private insurance in this country? What does it mean?
No, not at all. If you like your plan, if you're in a union and you want to keep your union plan, keep it. But I think if the government has its own plan, expands folks who could go into a Medicare-like system, that would drive down the costs in the private markets. But I don't want us to just have a coverage debate. I want us to go so big, be so bold, do such good that we seek and find cures in our lifetime. And I have a friend, 37 years old, former federal prosecutor, 3 beautiful little kids. He has ALS. And he's not coming to me to find any answers because he doesn't have time and he can't count on Washington. And he reflects a generation that has given up on Washington to be an advocate in their health care. I want us to invest in genomics and data sharing and targeted therapies so that we can be a partner.
So you don't go as far as what Bernie Sanders is proposing, which is that government ought to take over health care and get rid of private
People
insurance.
like choice. That's just
so
ingrained
you're public
in who
option.
we are.
You're public option. You're not Medicare for all.
I think people like choice. That's so much of who we are, is we want to have choices. But I think the government has a bigger responsibility in that choice.
So I noticed you mentioned you were a prosecutor. One of the things that's really been a head scratcher for me is the notion that a Democratic candidate running for president, that it's a negative that they've been a prosecutor. We've got 2 strong women in the race. Both Amy Klobuchar and Kamala Harris were elected prosecutors and spent time in the courtroom. I always saw that, my experience in that regard, is a huge positive. What is up with all of a sudden being a prosecutor being a negative? And you mentioned it, so clearly you don't think it is one. Aren't you worried that we are going so far to address, and I get it, we need criminal justice reform, but that people are actually seeing someone who is trying to keep communities safe as a negative?
That's one of the most important issues always, regardless of where you live, feeling safe in your community. And I'm proud that for 7 years I worked to make communities safer. Also, when you sit in that seat, as you know, you get to show mercy for people who are worthy of it. You get to divert them if they don't need to go to prison. Kamala Harris and I come from the same district attorney's office, and I learned that there. And that's why when it comes to what Russia did...
You guys had one of the first drug courts, too.
Yes, yes, we did. And a family justice court, too. And we elected the first woman DA just recently there. So, but when it comes to Russia, the reason I care so much about what they did is putting that prosecutor hat on. I have looked at the evidence. I feel very strongly that this wasn't just about transactionally helping someone who would help you back with sanctions and taking us out of Syria and reducing the role of NATO. They wanted to tear down the idea of America, the idea that allowed my dad as a cop to believe if he worked hard, his son could go to college. And if you can tear down that idea here, Russians won't ask for that in Moscow. And that's why it's so important that we not let us slide toward an oligarchy, that we allow that the most thing, if you want to be pro-capitalism, don't let Russia interfere in our elections.
Did Attorney General Barr embarrass himself yesterday, disgrace himself yesterday?
Yes, absolutely. And you know, he is the opposite of Sessions, who was recused. He's embedded. He is completely immersed now with the Trump team and the Fox News, propaganda arm that he has working.
Why in the world would the Senate confirm a guy who wrote basically a letter to Donald Trump, basically proving that he was terribly compromised and should never have anything to do with Mueller or beyond Mueller?
Yeah, he shouldn't have been confirmed. Once he was confirmed, he should have recused himself. And that letter, which was 15 pages longer than the letter that he wrote describing a 2-year investigation with 2,800 subpoenas, 500 search warrants, 37 indictments. He has no business being on this case. I won't accept anything about this investigation until we hear from Bob Mueller.
Are you going to demand that you see the entire report?
Yes, we paid for it. We should read every word of it.
So let's talk about Trump. A lot of people looking at the sea of Democratic candidates in this primary are looking for someone who can beat Trump. And what we have seen is a candidate who plays dirty, who gets ugly, and has a very, very difficult relationship with the truth, to say the least. How do you break through on that level to show Americans, to show voters that you can do this?
I can add states. I was born in Iowa. educated in the South, married to a girl from Southern Indiana, and elected in one of the most diverse parts of the country. I also believe just by being a working class candidate, I can look those people in the eyes who really genuinely wanted a candidate who would increase their wages, bring down their health care costs, and give their kids a brighter future. And they're going to need someone to not dismiss them, but to dismiss the guy that didn't deliver for them. And that's the key here is don't dismiss those voters. What they wanted mostly was right. Dismiss the guy who's utterly been incompetent and incapable of delivering for them.
If you end up in a one-on-one with President Trump, I won't try to predict his nickname for you, but
Swalwell, I bet, right? Just turn the W upside down.
You just handed it. You just handed it to him.
Yeah.
But one of the things he will undoubtedly say is that you were way out there on the question of his campaign's relationship with Russia. And you said even in January on MSNBC when you were asked by Chris Matthews if the president is an agent of Russia, you said yes. Do you regret saying that, or do you believe that President Trump still is an agent of Russia? What do you mean by that?
He acts on their behalf. He puts their interests too often ahead of our own interests. And that, again, that affects opportunity at home. If we become more like Russia, where it's a top floor economy and only the fat cats are able to benefit and all of us just toil away and get crumbs.
Do you think he's taking orders from Vladimir Putin? When you say agent, what do you mean by that?
Well, if he wasn't taking orders, he wouldn't take the interpreter's notes. If he wasn't taking orders, he would release the report that he said he's 100% exonerated with. And so why does he act so suspiciously with Russia in ways that he doesn't act with Theresa May or Macron or Trudeau? It just, all of my experience as a prosecutor tells me something is wrong with the way that he's acting, the way that he's lying, and that we should all be concerned about.
So were you surprised then that at least in the summary from the Attorney General that Bob Mueller could not find evidence of a conspiracy?
No, because as a prosecutor I know that proving a case beyond a reasonable doubt is the highest standard in the law, that it's not the same as more likely than not. And it was funny, I went on Fox News the same day that the Smollett case had happened, and they were expressing such outrage that he was not charged with the crime. And I told the anchor, if you're so upset that you know what happened, you believed he lied about it because he did it, but he wasn't charged with the crime, then you have the same gripe that I have, but we should both accept in our country that you can know what happened, but it does not meet the standard of breaking the law.
All right. Congressman Eric Swalwell, thank you very much for being on. Good luck.
Appreciate it.
All right. And in our next hour, we'll speak with another 2020 Democratic hopeful, former Colorado Governor John Hickenlooper. And a note as we go to break, next Wednesday, April 17th, Joe and his band. It's ICF.
Willie's going to sing.
Bob Mueller on bass.
Muller's on bass. Claire's going to be there.
Claire's your daughter coming? She can sit with me.
She's worried about.
She can sit with me.
Okay, I'll tell her.
Yeah.
She's worried about what?
What it will look like?
No.
What are you worried about?
She's worried about, frankly, that she would have to like hang out with you and that she's not up to it.
Oh my gosh.
She's a little nervous about the star power.
Oh my gosh. She's sitting with me and also Lemire and his wife. Okay? Good, that's the plan. This is at the Cutting Room.
I wish I was going to be here.
You need to be here.
I want to hear you
Change
play.
your plans. Okay, the show kicks off around 7 p.m. You can get a preview of some of his new songs, including the track Austin, Texas, on Filter.com. That's FILTR.com. It's the world's leading third-party playlist service across music platforms like Spotify and Apple Music. And they've got Joe's music and some great playlists like Country Roads, Country Summer, and Fall Fields.
Mueller can slap that bass.
No.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.